Take two.
Take three.
Welcome to another episode of Cranial Diarrhea. I'm Tiff.
I like mustard on my biscuit.
I thought we agreed we weren't going to do that.
You agreed. I didn't
I think what I told you was I will shut this shit down.
agree. What's a number for 911?
I need to take these off. Blair.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Sing it, girl.
No,
Sing it.
I don't want to.
What do we? What? You were singing it. So what are we talking about this week?
So, I came across this documentary around Halloween. And when I say I came across it, I saw the first 5 minutes before I was looking at the back of my eyelids. This was late at night. Anyway, about Flight 401. The
Yes.
documentary itself is called The Ghosts of 401, and I got literally like he was describing what the show was going to be about, and then I was like, I'm done. But anyway, it sounded really interesting to me, and I thought, hey, we should touch on that.
Yeah. It once you brought it and was telling me about it, and then I started doing research. I did kind of the history of the flight. I found some really interesting things that I think kind of may lead into the paranormal. So I'm going to start off with that.
I really think, just based on everything that I've seen and found during my research, I think that this might be the one that tips the scales for you.
It's possible. So let here's now this was a flight from JFK to Miami, basically. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and everything was going along fine. But as they were getting closer to Miami, and they started evaluating the landing gear,
Mm-hmm.
the trouble light or the light for the landing gear did not come on, which indicated there was a problem with the front landing gear. So all of the pilots and everything in the cockpit started focusing on that. Well, while they were focused on that, no one noticed that the autopilot had somehow disengaged.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the weird part. Now, I want you. This is what really got me. As the plane's flying, the plane stayed at the altitude when the autopilot was disengaged,
Mm-hmm.
so you really didn't feel anything, and it stayed for like 60 seconds. Then it dropped like 100 feet and leveled back off, so you really couldn't tell. It did that for like 30 seconds. Then it dropped 200 feet in altitude, but stayed level at that point. And it kept doing that through a series until finally it crashed. But no one realized the plane was dropping because it was such a gradual drop. And then it would like spend some, a few seconds or whatever flying at that altitude before it dropped again. So it was the way I was reading about it, it was kind of like a guided drop. And no one realized till it was too late and they couldn't save the flight. Now, to me, when autopilot goes off, I would think the plane would automatically start dipping.
Yeah.
So that was really weird. But here's the even weirder part, the whole landing gear thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying now, one expert said the bulb, when they took the bulb out of the area, I guess it survived the crash, the bulb worked. Another, but they said on the plane the bulb was not working and there was no faulty wiring in that connector. But the bulb didn't light up, showing that the landing gear was going down. That's why they thought there was a problem. So they blamed it on a bulb that went out, but then someone, another inspector or whatever, said the bulb was tested and worked at that point. So that's just really, really strange to me.
Maybe it's like, not to make light of the situation, but I'm gonna make light of the situation because that's what I do. Um, you remember like any electronic that doesn't work, your first reaction is to bang it on something,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it works. Maybe that's what happened.
That could be. but the thing I found
The
weird,
impact, and the bulb
yeah,
was like, oh, okay,
uh,
it works now.
ching.
Yeah.
The thing I found weird though was the gradual descent of the plane and then it leveling off at various points,
Yeah.
so they couldn't detect it. That's
Well,
to
do we
me.
know if that's like a built-in functionality, or like is that supposed to happen, or is that not supposed to happen? Do we
Well,
know?
from what I found looking at it,
Hmm.
that is kind of the purpose of an autopilot, but the autopilot got disengaged.
Right, but what I'm saying is when you disengage the autopilot and you start to lose altitude, is it supposed to level off and then like gradually lose altitude,
Well,
or is
see,
it supposed to just go?
well, I kind of thought it would just, but
Yeah.
the thing I was wondering and the thing I was trying to find out, and I haven't really found anything because it's very technical, but I was wondering maybe like if there could be air pockets or turbulence or something that could level the plane off. I just don't know enough about that. But I thought it was really
So
weird
they crash landed where?
right outside of Miami.
And it's like in the swamp, right?
Yeah, it's in the uh well, I'll call it the Everglades. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's
I
right
think
in
it.
that. It's in that
I
area.
think
Yeah,
that's what it
yeah.
is.
But there was like a particular area,
Mm.
and I don't remember what it was called, but it's in the Everglades. I'm gonna call it Woolly Swamp so we can use the Charlie Daniels song. Well, you better not go down to Woolly Swamp.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, we'll have to play that song
No,
then.
we won't. That's not necessary.
But um, the pilot was a very experienced pilot, and so were all the members of the cockpit. So it's just weird to me. You would think there would be an alarm that says, "Hey, your autopilot didn't come on," or like in an airplane, when the autopilot started going down and the lady had to blow it back up.
I bet there is now.
So I would hope. Because I know the last flight I was on coming home, we started losing altitude, and they didn't say anything, but you could tell because you could feel the plane dropping. But then everything got really cold, and like you could actually see your breath. We had lost cabin pressure, so they
Mm.
had to bring it down to a certain level to fly us in.
I've only been on a plane one time, and I was an infant. So,
I've flown
and
several
it was
times.
literally from Nashville to Mobile,
I've flown
Alabama.
several times, and on that flight, the person I was sitting next to, they're like, "How far do you think the plane will get us?" And I'm like, "All the way to the crash site."
You stole that joke from somebody.
Oh, did I? Oh, well, whoever it was, I apologize then. I don't know. It just popped into my head. I want to hold my microphone up here like I'm doing an interview.
I don't think mine comes off. Not that it matters. I don't want to hold it, so it doesn't matter.
So, ooh, that's loud when I got it up here.
Hmm.
I'm going to put it back down here.
Good call.
So, that's the weird part, and kind of like the, maybe there could be something to this, like some ghost of a pilot's in there flying the plane.
Well, at least you're not assuming that like aliens boarded the ship and
Well, that was my next thing
or
was
the
aliens were
chupacabra
hovering. The chupacabra's in the cockpit.
chewing on the wiring.
Yeah. So, oh, that could be. The aliens could have
That's
took
not. Nope.
control of the ship, and
Mm-mm.
they could be up there with a remote control like a
Nope.
little kid alien.
Nope. Nope.
That could have been their remote
That's not what
control.
happened at all.
Oh. But I found it fast that the fact that the plane gradually descended and kept leveling off is what I found fascinating. That's the work of aliens.
Like I would have to look into it a little bit more and just to see if that's like normal airplane behavior because I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, every
'Cause
airplane.
I would think that there's got to be some kind of oops, sorry. There's got to be some kind of fail safe involved where like if it is accidentally engaged, it doesn't just plummet from the sky. Yeah.
But
Or like maybe the winds or the.
But even more,
I
the
don't know.
gradualness
I
of
don't
it
know
is
how
what I'm
airplanes work.
focused on because, like, being having been in airplanes, you can tell when the airplane's descending. But the
Sure,
100-foot drop and then leveling off and then, a 200-foot drop, that's what gets me. It's like it wasn't a total
So
descent.
like, was there like all of a sudden you just crash? Like the people, the passengers were like had no clue what was happening, and then they're just dead.
Well, from what I understand, it got low enough to the point that they couldn't get it back up and they couldn't
Oh,
get
you
the
know what?
plane
I
back
bet they
under
could
control.
see out of the
Oh,
windows.
hey, look, that person looks like they're like pretty big.
Is that
we,
a is that an alligator?
is that a tree we just hit?
I feel like we might be a little low.
No, the pilot's got it
So
under
how many
control.
people died?
Wow,
100 and
you would ask me that. I had it in my notes, but I don't have my notes up here. I want to say was it 104 or 109 and like 70 something survived?
I think I want to say it was 101.
Yeah, I know it was 100 and
And but
something
not all of them died
immediately.
immediately.
Right.
There were a lot of people that like drowned and
Some of them became alligator food in the swamp. But I think it was like 100 something died and like 70 something survived. I think is the numbers I remember.
That's craziness.
Isn't that something? And one of the members of the crockpit, the crockpot crew.
Right. Well, it was the crock pit after it
Yeah.
crashed.
Yeah, really, crocodiles everywhere. But one of those members actually survived.
So I was trying to tie it into what I was about to do.
Oh, okay.
But you won't stop talking.
No, I'll stop now. I'm gonna become a monk.
So I kind of went into the, not that that wasn't interesting and
Oh, so you're saying mine was boring.
very depressing, but the real interesting part of this is the aftermath.
Tell us, young Jedi.
And it's like I have not had enough caffeine for this. Let's get into the paranormal aspect of the aftermath of the crash.
Let us talk about
Okay.
the paranormal, young Jedi.
According to the first 5 minutes of that documentary that I fell asleep during,
it was riveting.
it was very. They were saying that a lot of survivors of the flight were seeing a lot of the passengers that had passed on. I didn't really find a lot of that. I went to several different sources and websites, not sources. I don't know any of these people. But there wasn't a lot mentioned. But I will say that there are a ton of stories involving the pilot and the flight engineer. So let's get into those. Okay.
Yeah, because.
Oh, hey, look. I did have the number. It's 101.
101. And how many survived? Do you have that?
Well, no, because I'm only worried about the dead.
Okay. I'm pretty sure. Where did they bury the survivors? Do we know?
In the swamp.
No, we don't bury survivors.
Some of them survived and died in the swamp.
Oh, well, that's true. They became alligator food.
Anyway.
It's the circle of life.
So, I'm just going to read these off. And then
Okay.
we can discuss each one as I finish reading it.
Okay.
Ghosts of pilot Bob Loft and flight engineer Don Repo were two of the 101 people who died in the crash. Not long after, the ghosts of both were seen on more than 20 occasions by crew members or other Eastern TriStars, which are planes.
Yep.
Especially those planes that had been fitted with salvaged parts from the Flight 401 wreckage. The apparitions of Loft and Repo were invariably described as being extremely lifelike. They were not only reported by people who had known both, but people who did not were able to identify the ghosts they saw by their photos. An account of the paranormal happenings even appeared in a 1974 U.S. Flight Safety Foundation's newsletter.
Here's my question on that I have to wonder. Number one, when you have a plane that crashed, do you really want to use parts from that on another plane?
Well, so here's the interesting part, right? All of these stories are like these parts were salvaged, but the airline, like, denied it. Like, no,
Oh,
that didn't happen. And I think it's because they don't want people to know that they were salvaging wreckage
right.
to
But
put
the
on
other
other
thing,
planes.
is that, and you and I kind of talked about this, of that connection
Mm-hmm.
to the death
Mm-hmm.
with that part. Is that kind of an opening? I don't know if you, doorway, gateway. I don't know what you want to call it
Mm-hmm.
for paranormal activity.
I don't know.
I mean,
So,
because I'm wondering now if all of these sightings involved like aircraft where the parts had been reused. Like if was there was any other sightings on any aircraft where there was not a part connected to that plane.
not that I could find.
So that's got to be some kind of connection.
And these, when I tell you these sightings that I'm about to read off to you, are pretty convincing.
Okay,
It's pretty convincing
let's
stuff.
jump on into them.
Okay. So, many of the testimonies are extremely persuasive. Many come from people in highly responsible positions, pilots, flight officers, even a vice president of Eastern Airlines, who allegedly spoke with the captain he assumed was in charge of the flight before recognizing him as the late Loft.
He
Others
spoke with him.
spoke with him. Other sightings are convincing because they have multiple witnesses. A flight's captain and two flight attendants claim to have seen and spoken to Loft before takeoff and watched him vanish, an experience that left them shaken, so shaken that they canceled the flight.
So they were shaken but not stirred. So wait a minute now. So they saw him, like, was he on the plane
He was
before?
on the plane. They
And
saw him, they spoke to him, and then he vanished right in front of them.
that was my question. Was it
Yes.
like they turned around and he was
No, he
gone?
vanished right in front of them.
I wonder what the conversation
And
was.
there are a couple of instances
Okay,
of that happening.
let's keep going. That's pretty cool.
Um, One female passenger made a concerned inquiry to a flight attendant regarding the quiet, unresponsive man in Eastern Airlines uniform sitting in the seat next to her, who subsequently disappeared in front of both her and the stewardess. The woman later identified Repo as the officer she had seen, who was the flight engineer.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Repo appeared on another flight that had been outfitted with salvaged parts from 401 and told the current flight engineer who was doing a routine pre flight inspection, he said, "You don't have to worry about pre flight. I've already done it." Crazy.
That's wild.
Apparently, the two spirits are hands on. There is a testimony that Repo was seen fixing a galley oven. He was also seen in the compartment below the cockpit by a flight engineer who had accessed it in order to investigate a knocking he heard coming from there. So, like, he's fixing things because that's what they do, right? Um,
So they're actually doing repairs on the new airplanes that have the salvage parts.
mhm.
Well,
this
you're talking about cheap labor.
this one's really cool. Repo's face was seen by a flight attendant looking at her from inside of a galley oven. She ran and got two colleagues, one of which was a friend of Repo's, okay, who recognized him immediately. All three people heard Repo warn them to watch out for fire on the plane. The plane later experienced engine trouble, and the last leg of the flight was canceled. That galley had been salvaged from Flight 401, and a fire was later recorded on that flight.
How did it? Wow. So it's like they went to put their toast in the oven. It's like, beware.
There's like a head in there, like, oh hey.
There will be a fire. Well, could you use it to fix my toast there, sir? Thank you very much.
One of the vice presidents of Eastern Airlines boarded a Miami-bound TriStar at JFK Airport and spoke to a uniformed captain sitting in first class. He recognized the captain was Loft, at which point the apparition vanished. Um, Repo appeared to a captain and told him there will never be another crash. We will not let it happen.
Oh wow.
Hmm. So that's all plane related, and I have
So
two. No.
that's really interesting because you said they're on there and they're fixing stuff,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah, it's like they're.
the
It's like they
aberration.
stayed behind with the pieces of the plane, and now they're on these flights, like trying to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Okay, so here's my question: if you had the choice between a regular flight or a flight with Ghost fixing things to make sure it doesn't crash, which flight are you taking?
Flight with ghosts.
See, I would be using that as an advertising campaign here at TriStar Airlines.
Spirit Airlines is already
Yeah,
taken.
yeah. Here at these airlines, we have paranormal friends that help us fly safely through the atmosphere. Sit back, read a book, talk to a spirit, have a good day.
I just think it's really interesting that there's so many different accounts of the same two
So now,
apparitions, and they're speaking to people, and they're, you know what I mean.
okay, here's what I have to ask now. And this is kind of maybe you know the difference. I don't. Are these now instead of considered ghosts or apparitions, are these now considered more of guardian angels?
No, I think it depends on what you believe, I guess.
I
I think
guess.
in my head, guardian angels were not human to begin. Like they were angels
I'm just, yeah,
first.
yeah. I mean, I just,
They're just
that's,
like assigned to you, I guess. I don't know.
there,
In my
there's,
head, that's how it
what are
works.
you trying to say? All the guardian angels are out playing baseball or something?
I
Like angels in the outfield.
liked that movie.
I did too. But, uh, I mean,
In my head, that's how it works for me. That's how I think it works.
I just wonder. I mean, because they're apparently their new mission is to make sure no other planes crash and no one gets hurt.
That's what they're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
Right.
And I think maybe it's like the guilt that because honestly the crash was on the
On
pilot,
them.
right, and on
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
engineer,
kind of what they're saying.
and so now they're bound here because of that guilt that they
Or
killed so many people.
they have stock in that company and they want to make sure they're making money.
I'm gonna say that's probably not the case. um
Or it could be aliens in disguise.
so I do have like three small.
Okay.
They're kind of generalized, but it's based on the crash site. um Someone was frog gigging. That means catching frogs
Only in the South. We
so we
we's
can
a
eat them.
we's a frog gigging down
And
here.
reportedly saw a woman's face upturned and screaming beneath the water.
What do you mean upturned?
Turned up.
Oh,
Sorry, do you need a dictionary?
well, I didn't know. Like maybe her
You're
nose was on,
college educated twice. Like,
like maybe her nose was on the back of her head. I didn't know what you meant by upturned.
hunters are claimed to see specters out there, and things swimming below the surface of the swamp, things dressed in rags and tattered clothing.
Well, I think that would be where the clothing attached to the alligators.
Oh, you think the alligators like ate the people and they were like, "That's a nice
I'm
shirt.
gonna wear this
I'm
shirt.
gonna wear that shirt."
Yeah, I kind of think that might be what happened. Hey, I like those are Levi jeans. Them are expensive corduroys. um, the I think the thing that gets me is all of the people actually more than one person at a time seeing the aberration and it vanishing in front of them instead of an individual.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you know how sometimes, and I'll say, mind plays tricks on people. I don't want to say they make things up because I don't know. I'm not there. But when you have more than one person in that place, that kind of verifies that for me.
I think it would be really difficult for your like you to just imagine a full blown person and you're having a conversation with them out like in your head. Like I have imaginary conversations in my head all the time, but I don't see a physical person.
You have imaginary conversations?
Oh yeah.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
You think that's part of being receptive to like the psychic paranormal type? Because I don't have,
No, I think I'm just mentally unstable.
I don't have conversations in my head.
I think I have some
I
issues
guess
that
I just don't have
need to
anything to
be
talk about.
addressed.
Like, do you have conversations like with yourself?
Yeah, like I'll have conversations with myself and then like after a confrontation or something, I'll go through it in my head and replay it and like make changes like this is what I should have said and that kind of thing. No.
No, I may that and
You don't talk to yourself though in your head?
not really.
Not at all?
I don't think
Oh,
so.
I do all the time.
Do you really like what?
Mhm.
Like now, would you consider that like thinking to yourself, "Oh, I got to remember to do this when I go to work Monday," and then making a note of it in your phone?
No, it's usually like criticism. Like I'll be working or something and I'll make a mistake and I'll be like, "Oh, you're such a fucking idiot. So stupid." Or I'll I don't know. I just
Well, I guess maybe I do have those thoughts. Like, I can't believe you did that shit.
Do you have intrusive thoughts at all?
What's that?
Intrusive thoughts. It's like when you're chopping vegetables and you're like, I should cut my finger off.
No. My thoughts would be I'm cutting vegetables.
I know I'm not the only person that has these thoughts because I have
No.
friends that I have a text thread with every time we have one.
No, like I think that's an maybe more of an
It's
artistic.
a mental disorder.
No. I think that's more of a person that's in tune with like
Someone needs to be on medication.
the surroundings or feelings. You know what I'm saying?
It's like when I was in Florida with my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and my sister-in-law and I were on the second floor balcony, and like I was just looking over the rail, and I was like, I should just like get on it and just be like, oh, just like jump off.
Yeah, let's not do that.
I didn't, but
The only thing I'm thinking if I'm chopping vegetables is why in the heck ain't I having a hamburger?
okay. Well, this show took a turn, and
But no, that's kind of interesting though.
I've
because-
unleashed some things that people shouldn't know about me. Um,
But I think that may be more commonplace than you think, especially with people that are very, I guess, in tune with feelings and things.
I don't know.
See, I'm not.
I don't know that I'm in tune with feelings.
Well, you are because you're more receptive to the paranormal type activities and stuff. I'm not. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not. The next time I'm cutting up number one, why
You've
would
never been driving down the road and then you're just like, if I wonder if I can get out of the car and run as fast as the car, or like I wonder if I can get out of the car and run my leg over just to see what it feels like. Me neither. Me neither.
maybe. I guess maybe.
You're just like, I wonder what would happen if I just drove off this bridge.
Well, no, but I have wondered, like before, like if I've been crossing a bridge, like I wonder if this bridge is stable, and what happens if the bridge starts giving away? What does everybody do?
So I just drive across the bridge and it just falls and I'm on it.
Yeah, I mean, because
You're just driving along and be like, oh shit, we're
oh
underwater.
shit, the bridge went away. Where'd the bridge go?
The
But I
hell
mean,
just
what
happened?
would you do if you're driving along and you're over? Say you're in the middle of this long bridge and it just starts collapsing.
What can you do?
I'm
Fall.
gonna, I'm gonna go backwards.
You're gonna fall.
I'm gonna do my dive, get my 10-point dive in. Oh, awesome! Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you.
Awesome. Breakfast has arrived.
Love you.
Love you, sweetie.
Hey, have my glasses.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, I don't know that I've ever really had. Oh, it's a hash brown. You love hash browns. So should we end the show and eat breakfast at this point? So, like, what are you thinking right now?
Hash browns are good.
maybe you were thinking, what if I was driving a hash brown across a bridge and it started collapsing? So I think it's time to eat breakfast. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Until next time, if a bridge starts falling, run a little faster.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.